Today, we are very excited to welcome BYU Assistant Coach Cody Fueger. Cody, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's happening, Blake? Appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely, super stoked to talk about you and the Cougars and everything that you're currently doing and everything that you've done to get to the point that you're at. We'll start there. Take our viewers through what it's like being an assistant coach at the D1 level and what your day to day is like during the season right now.
Yeah, so a day in the life right now is college basketball is 24/7, 365. It never stops, whether it's recruiting, um, whether it's making sure you maintain great relationships with your current players, and then staff. Like it's all three things, and then you gotta keep administration and fans happy. So you gotta win some games, and it's a 24/7 deal. It's awesome. Absolutely love it. I mean, I get to watch basketball for a living and just communicate with, a younger generation and, help them kind of grow into people they want to be.
What are some of your main responsibilities on this current BYU staff?
So right now on this current staff, I'm the offensive coordinator. And then I have every third scout defensively. So, this past week I had Houston, and before that I had Iowa State. Got K-State coming up here in a couple weeks. So that's the basketball part, and then obviously player development. Mostly deal with the guards, point guards, and then also recruiting, right? That's nonstop. And then just making sure our players are good off the court. So I'm not in charge of academics right now, but there's a piece that, always want to make sure your guys are successful that way. Um, Really, you name it, that's everything an assistant coach does. So we got to be involved with everything.
Got it. And with the scouting and the player development part of your job at the D1 level, what are some of the things that you find yourself working on with your guys during the season in terms of, keeping that evolution alive of getting them to continue to get better as you guys go through your schedule, albeit, being tough and being a top nationally ranked team. Take me through what that's like and what your role is in accomplishing that.
So with that, it's honestly we spend a lot of time on the court, right? Before, after practice, we'll have individual workouts during the week. But a huge part is film. We watch a ton of film with these guys. Um, you know, we'll send them clips in the evenings, or we'll have them come by the office, every day, every other day. But it's kind of like all their, offensive and defensive possessions during the game and live practice. So we'll just spend a ton of time watching film. That's where they learn the best. That's where I feel like they learn the best, and then just getting them a ton of reps in practice so they can see it over and over again. So really enjoy the film part of it and having the guys in my office watching it together, and that's where you kind of see the most growth.
Last thing that I'll ask you about what's currently going on this season with BYU and your team is how's the season been for you guys? What's working well? What are you sort of looking to improve as March approaches here in just a couple weeks?
So, think some things that we've been really good at offensively and defensively. We'll start with offense first, but really sharing the ball. I think we're top in the country at assist to turnover ratio. Our guys are really, look for the extra pass, look for the the open shot every single time. Excuse me. Um, we try to play with a ton of pace. Right now, we are the, you know, um, top 50 team in the country with our average length, and we're trying to get our tempo a little bit faster. Um, we try to shoot about 35 plus threes a game, so it's a fun, exciting style, always playing fearless. Um, and then offensive rebound, we send four guys to the glass every single time. So those are our top three, four things offensively that we try to do every game. And then defensively, there's things that we really take to heart every time, and that's controlling the combat zone, which we call anything inside the three. Um, we want to have a really physical presence there. Our ball screen defense, because everyone sets, off ball screens. on ball screen. So that's super important to us. Um, and then I would say rebounding. That would be our, you know, another our top three things defensively. Oh, the fourth one would be guard your yard. So can you keep your guy in front of you? So those four things is our thing, our top keys defensively. And I would say actually we're been doing really good at all four of those things on both sides of the ball all year long. So we need to keep excuse me, keep getting better at that. Like we lost the Houston game because we couldn't rebound. They had 15 offensive rebounds, and that was just something that our team took to heart. We took to heart. Um, that hopefully we can see ourselves improve. And then offensively, we'd like to push the pace even more. So that includes our rebounding. That's why defensive rebounding is so important, and we want to get the ball out and go. So I would say those are the main two things we're kind of focusing on. Um, as we go down this home stretch where we can get better.
Got it. Now that we talked a little bit about where you are today and how the Cougars are doing this season, I want to focus on you and kind of go into your journey. A lot of people out there, of course, want to be coaches at the D1 level. So take us back to the start. How did you kind of get your start in basketball? And what has your journey been like to get to this point?
Yeah, so I was, I absolutely loved playing all sports growing up, yeah, football, basketball, soccer, all of them. And I just, when I got to be about 13 or 14, I just, fell in love with playing all the time. Um, I graduated high school at 5'6", and I was like, oh man, it's gonna be hard. I played against guys like Devin Harris at the YMCA, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what a real player is. He was a top five pick and Big Ten Player of the Year and had a long NBA career. But so I got to see him kind of, what a real player looked like, and I was like, well, that's gonna be hard going forward. Um, but I still stayed with it. I enjoyed it, and then I went to Rick Majerus basketball camps when I was younger. He's a former coach, Hall of Fame coach. And then um, when I was 16 years old, Coach Maderas actually asked me to coach at his basketball camps in Wisconsin. So I started coaching at his camps. Um, and then when I graduated high school, he asked me to walk on at Utah. But I'm really cheap, didn't want to pay out of state tuition, and knew I wanted to coach. So he said, all right, come work for me and I'll give you scholarship. So that's really what got me started. I got my undergrad and master's at University of Utah, and then I've kind of bounced all over the country, staying in Division One. I've been lucky. This is my 21st year in Division One and haven't had a break. I've been lucky. I've been at, you know, started at University of Utah where we had really good teams, Sweet 16, Andrew Bogut Player of the Year. Then I went to Louisiana Tech, had 4 great years there. UC Riverside for a year. Utah State with Stu Morrill, who's another Hall of Fame coach, Coach Dave Rose at BYU. And then I went to Utah Valley and then back to BYU. So 6 schools. I was at 5 schools in 4 years, kind of jumped around a little bit, but was lucky enough to do that when I was young, when my wife and I were still pretty young. I only had one kid at the time. So it's easy kind of jump around, but that's kind of been my journey, my path, and I've been lucky to do this for 21 years.
Being able to do it for 21 years, one of the positions that I want to ask you about in particular is the video coordinator job. With the advent of everything that's come about in the last even 5 to 10 years, what was the position like when you were starting, and what's it like now? Like, what are some of those differences that you see now that you've been in this and you're an assistant now?
Yeah, so when I started out, it was still like tape to tape, right? So I don't know if anybody knows what a VHS is anymore, but you'd start, Coach from Jairus would say, I want this clip or whatever, and it would take you, honestly, it would take you 3 hours just to get like four clips on this VHS, just so your team could watch personnel, excuse me, and some sets. Um, and then it went to DVDs, and that still was tough, but not even close to the VHS. And then out came Firefly, that was the digital. And now I just can't imagine how easy it is for our video guys. It's just they still do a ton of work. Like let's not say that, but it's just way different, way easier. It's just the push of a button and you can watch anything. Like I got sent the game, that I watched the game last night, Oklahoma versus Texas Tech, and then I got sent that game this morning. So um, they got pretty lucky right now. I used to have to drive the VHS. I actually drove one time for video exchange. I drove a VHS. We were playing Stony Brook in New York, and we landed at midnight in New York. We were playing the preseason NIT, but first we had an away game at Stony Brook in New York, and I had to drive 7 hours just to drop this film off just when I got in. So that was a 7 hour drive to drop this film off, and then I had to drive 7 hours back to be with the team. So a total of 14 hours just for one VHS, tape, one game, and it's just way different. It's just a button now, just send online.
Oh man, yeah, they didn't have Adobe Premiere back then, man. I wish I could. I wish I could go back in time right now and hand you a laptop with some with some editing software, driving 14 hours for an exchange. That's crazy, but that's dedication, man. And it's funny because I'm sure now you look at it now and you're like you said, it's like, and I like I'm a video editor, so I know how hard it is on the content side or on the basketball operations side, whatever you're doing. It's a grind, but yeah, it can always be harder and you saw what that was like back in the day. So that's really cool.
For sure.
Speaking of which, on the coaching side, how do you and having this knowledge that you have now about all of the different things that video guys can do, how do you use that to help you as an assistant?
I mean, the biggest thing is it just saves me so much time too, right? Where, all right, I want to watch, all of Dallin Hall's ball screens, and we've got that already all pulled up, and we can bring them in and show them. Jackson Robinson, Spencer Johnson, like all our guys, it's just one push of a finger, and I can watch it all, and all their possessions, and all of Ali Khalifa's passes this year. It's awesome. Like it's just everything right at your fingertips and makes it easy. And you can either send it to them or bring them in to watch it with them. Makes my job way easier.
How did working on the operations side of all of this help you once you got your first official opportunity as a coach? And then how have you sort of built on that ever since?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing the operations part helped me with is just that I've done every job. And for me to be wanting to be a head coach, I've done every single part of the program, right? I've seen it from the worst and the hardest part is being, manager and you got to do this and that. I've done that to doing tickets, laundry, figuring it all out. I've been lucky enough that I've been given all those responsibilities. So I've seen all that part. Um, and then it just gave me a great opportunity to just build the best relationships I can with the players and staff and just kind of intertwine with them all day long in every single role and all the varieties that brings. And I've been lucky, to be able to do that and form great relationships down the line, and still do that I have to this day. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day is the relationships with everybody, and that's kind of what I've been lucky to do.
What's your favorite part about being an assistant coach?
I would say film with the guys. I absolutely love that part. Just that's when it's the truth box. It's not always the glamorous let's have fun watching film. Like it's you want to tell them the truth and show them the truth, and sometimes it's awesome film sessions, sometimes it's a little bit tougher. um at the end of the day, I always try to give them three positives to one negative when I'm watching film, but that's my favorite part is, and you can see it when it clicks for them too. um yeah, that's probably my favorite part. And then having them over to my house, that's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, the relationship aspect of it as you were saying. What's your favorite memory working alongside Coach Pope throughout the years?
Ooh, man, there's a lot. We've there's a couple times I would say my favorite memory. it's not always the best ones, right? It was year 4 at Utah Valley, and man, we were not in a great place. We were 1-3, just got beat up by a Utah State team that we weren't sure how good they were, and we had all new guys this year at Utah Valley. And then we lost that game, and we kind of all like got together and kind of figured it out. We won 8 straight after that and just turned it on. We won 20, it was either 24 or 25 games that year, and the most that's ever won at Utah Valley. Um, Probably just, you know, that whole time at Utah Valley was just incredible because it was like a program that hasn't done much at the end of the day, but built a new practice facility. There's just so many things that I really enjoyed, and we just broke kind of record after record every single year, and it's still moving on up. And now it's turned into a really good job, and there's everybody wants it now. So that was kind of my favorite deal is that Utah Valley, and then BYU. It's just man, it's this year's been a lot of fun. I'll tell you that. This year's been a lot of fun. Just pl just playing a fun style and just how unselfish everybody is on the team. Um, being around Coach Pope for his first 100 wins as a head coach, then his first 100 wins at BYU, just BYU, and just being able to he let me be a part of all that stuff. So it's been great.
As you've mentioned, you've been part of some teams that have made it into March Madness, into the NCAA tournament. Of course, that's the goal when you start out every year at the D1 level is to make it to the dance. But when you get there, how can you kind of summarize just sort of like how special it is once you are there?
Oh man, it's just it just brings back so many memories. Like I started out at University of Utah, and my first year we were playing, Oregon and then Kentucky with Coach Majerus, and it was like, okay, this is what college basketball is. Like I lucked into that, working for him. And then, some hard years at, whether it be UC Riverside or Louisiana Tech, and it took a little while, and then we got in there with BYU. It's just hard to put it into words how special it is. Just every single time, and you know, every single time I've gotten in the NCAA tournament, the night before the game, I always text everybody I've either worked with or worked for, and just appreciate them for everything they did for me, and hopefully we can get a win for them the next day. So it's a awesome experience.
Awesome. Now that we talked more about your experiences and sort of your path, want to get into some of the more advice and some of the more things that you've learned, more introspection about just kind of like how you've gotten to where you are and what you would say to people who want to get to where you are. Because of course, as we talked about at the top of the show, there's lots of people out there that want to get to the D1 level in some capacity. So, first question I got for you on that front is, what is your best advice for somebody that's looking to break into the basketball industry?
Um, Somebody that's trying to get into the basketball industry, man. I wish there was one thing. Like it's just a completely different profession than anything out there, right? Like um I wish I could say, hey, go be an assistant coach with a junior college. Go be an ops guy, or go try to be, and those aren't easy jobs to get. Go be a manager and just work with the basketball team as a volunteer at the Division 1 level. That's a hard job to get, right? If I leave my job today, there's going to be, 30,000 people that are trying to get that job, right? The second I'm out of it. So, man, I would say the thing that I'm lucky that I did, it was just I started with Coach Majerus a long time ago, and he just had it. People have a ton of respect for him. But I've also known junior college and AAU guys that have been trying to get in Division 1 for a long time, and it's really difficult. Um, like there's some guys that have zero experience, but he's an AAU coach of a really good player, and he brings the really good player with him. And it's like, well, what has that guy really done to get to that spot, right? Or there's a junior college coach that's been a head coach, and you know he wants to be a Division I assistant, and it's just they're just hard jobs to get. I wish there was of all the advices. If I want to be in Division I would start in Division I, however I could get there. Um, and then after that, then maybe take a couple years at junior college and see if you can move up that way, building relationships. But like we've talked about this whole time, it's building relationships with people. And if you can go volunteer or be a manager, if there's any way you can start in Division I, just so you can get to know each other, know somebody, especially somebody that's respected and well known, and trying to do your best part that way. Like I said, it's not working in the army. It's not a bank. It's just there's no clear path to move up in this profession.
What's one thing that you know now that you wish that you knew or you would tell somebody younger? Um, that's like you said, there's no like one specific path, but that is trying to, be a coach or work in basketball ops or something like that.
Yeah, great question. Well, because college basketball is all recruiting. So I would have spent all my time just getting to know different recruiting contacts, whether it's AAU coach or international coaches, agents. I would just go those three things where I'd just try to, I mean, even to this day, I have a something on my phone that say, hey, network with somebody you don't know for 25 minutes today, right? Like that's kind of what I wish I would have done, as an 18-year-old. It's easy to say that, but as an 18-year-old, I thought I knew what the hell I was doing, and now I'm 40, and I was like, you have no idea what you're doing. Um, but I would have done that, yeah, at 18 years old, just try to build as many relationships that I could, um, and just yeah, that would be probably the biggest thing, recruiting contacts.
What's the best piece of advice that you've been given by Coach Hope or Coach Jarris or any of your other current or former colleagues in the coaching profession?
Oh man, uh, so many different things. Um, I would say, Coach Majerus used to just always say, winning is always, about defense and rebounding, like we've heard for a long time. But he had a way to put that in your soul a little bit, right? Um, that and then, he'd always talk about, man, if it was easy to be good, everybody be good. It's effing tough to be good. So that's something that I think about every single morning, that kind of wakes me up and gets me fired up to get going on the day. And then another thing, like I said, was it's all about relationships, right? Like that's something that somebody told me at, 22 years old, 23 years old. And then I started to figure out a little bit better because, I was always a relationship guy. I didn't know how important that was, but I really liked relationships. But it just made me dive into it a little bit more when I was 22 years old. Former coworker of mine, Aubrey McCreary, told me that a long time ago. So,
What's the best way to grow your network? Um, and like specifically because you were just talking about, making those relationships. Like, what's your best piece of advice for doing that, for growing those relationships and growing your network to move up and get to where you want to be?
yeah, so my best advice would be if you're trying to do this deal, I would try to get to know all these like national sports writers, not necessarily national ones, but not sports writers, sorry, just like recruiting guys, like Gavoni. He's with gosh, what's it called? Jonathan Givony, who's with NBADraft.net. Like, try to get to know him, get his recruiting service, um, and then different guys like that, or the Arizona Preps guy. Get to know him, and he can kind of feed you and different agents to talk to, or different players to be aware of, and different coaches to talk to. So that would be my kind of advice is, excuse me, with this NIL now, it's turning into agents. So got to know who the players are and who these agents are. And if you can just reach out to them and get to know them a little bit, um, that can really help you down the line. Agents know who these players are. Um, and then Division I coaches, it's hard because man, it's just a crazy profession right now. And like me myself, I get 3 emails a week for not a week, every 3 days right now of somebody wants to get in the profession and how do they do it? um, and get different emails, and it takes a lot of time to respond to everybody, and I do want to respond to everybody, but it takes a little time, and it's just this NIL. It's just such a fluid, changing thing. Um, if there's one program that you could get involved in and try to volunteer every day, I think that would help, you know, try to help your networking. But it's not easy if you just want to contact, three coaches a day. It may help a little bit, but it's just hard because we get a ton of that. We get a ton of it.
Couple things, coach. First of all, after doing this show, you just send people the link now. You're just like, I did this show. We talked about it for 30 minutes. Here you go. You know what I mean? You could just drop the University of Hoops telling us subscribe and like and you'll be good to go. So we're helping you out in that department.
I
Uh
appreciate that.
the second thing that I want to talk about with you is you touched on it a little bit in your last answer, which is NIL and how it is actively evolving and transforming college sports, whether it's basketball, football, etc. How do you manage that at the D1 level at a big school like you're at? Like how is it impacting your day to day and how do you manage it?
Yeah, well, it went from nothing 2 years ago to top one, two, three things we talk to every single recruit. So it's all day, every day, it's being discussed. Um, and if you want really good players, you better have NIL. So it's completely changed, impacted like my profession was here, now it's way over here, right? Um, so that's done it. And now, like, you hear about these figures for guys. The player tells you you get this much. His agent's telling you he gets this much, and you're like, I don't know what's real or not. So it's just kind of a wild, wild west and free for all. So I wish I could give you a better answer, other than it's affected all day, every day of my profession. I have no idea who's telling the truth. I have no idea what's real or not. It's just kind of one of those things we're flying by the seat of our pants, but that's the only thing we can do. I'm hearing these ridiculous amount of money for people, all over $1 million for some of these players. So, and then you hear one guy who like he was averaged 2 points a game at one school, and he's like, "Hey, I need 150," and you're like, "What? 75,000 per point?" I mean, it's just a wild, wild thing that people are saying, and with compliance and everything, you're trying to figure out what's legal to say, what's not legal to say. Let's just say it's everything in this profession right now.
Got it. Thanks for elaborating on it. I appreciate it. Back to some of the advice stuff that we were talking about. And I know that we talked about how there is no path. But what's your best piece of advice for moving up in the specifically within coaching on the coaching side?
On the coaching side, if you're trying to get in the NBA, it's video coordinator, you know. And in college, trying to move up to that coaching role, try to go to one of these, jobs, one of these coaches, try to work for one of these Division I coaches that that they promote from within. Like that's super important. Or it's a really successful program where one of the assistants is going to get, a head coaching job, and you can move with him. Um, but that's the best way is, and then just form the best relationships that you can with the staff. Like for Coach Majerus, my goal was for him not to worry about anything, off the floor really. So I try to take care of everything. Um, and even with the head coaches now, like Coach Pope, like I try to help him out as much as I can with stuff off the floor so he doesn't have to deal with it. Um, but yeah, and that's where you're trusted and you're given more stuff. Um, yeah, that's the best advice, man. It's not easy.
You've been super gracious with your time, coach, and we appreciate it. The last thing that I'll ask you, and this is the final question we ask all of our guests: what is your why behind what you're doing in the sport of basketball?
My why is I just love the development of, college kids, high school kids, just seeing them grow and develop. I love helping putting together a team. I really love that. I love seeing, what somebody can be. I love seeing what our program can be. Um, all that stuff gets me super excited, and I want to play against the best. Like I absolutely love that. Um, yeah, so those are a couple things, but that's my why. Like that's why I'm doing this. And like we talked about at the beginning, the relationships with everybody. Like there's so many great things about it. So I can't just give you one why. There's a lot. There's a lot of reasons why I do it every single day.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Coach. Again, you've been super gracious with your time, and we really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your story.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Blake.
Absolutely. And thank you to the viewers and listeners for tuning in to University of Hoops. We are the show that's taking you behind the scenes of your favorite basketball team every single week with people at the NBA level, the D1 level, the NBA G League level, etc. We have content coming for you on our YouTube at Univ Hoops. That's at UNIV Hoops. Again, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter. We got episodes every week and clips. So check those out, filled with advice and little tidbits from people just like Coach from BYU here, about how people got to where they are in the basketball business. So we'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.